Hello there and welcome to bnetTV.com. I'm Michelle Sklar. We're here at Mobile Internet World in Boston. I am joined by Macdonald of Alta Communications. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
A pleasure, Michelle. Thank you.
First of all, why don't you tell us about your company?
We're a private equity firm that invests in the media and telecommunications space. So we primarily invest in companies, mid-sized companies from generally $5 million of revenue to $100 million of revenue that are targeting the media category in particular. And so this conference fits very well with our strategy and looking at some of the companies that are here presenting as potential investment opportunities.
Wonderful. Can you give us some insight as to categorically what are you looking for when you assess a company? Do you look at the value chain? Are you looking at what its revenue opportunities are going to be? How do you put all those pieces together to make your decisions?
For us, focusing on advertising companies in the media space, today what we're really looking for are companies that can deliver targeted advertising that's measurable and that you can really quantify ROI. That is what advertisers want today in the marketplace. And as the internet has evolved, it has gone from being a banner-driven world in terms of a CPM sell to one that is more focused on delivering leads and potentially ROI. So for us as investors in these companies, we're looking for companies that can truly prove that they can show they're delivering a targeted audience, that they are delivering advertising that's measurable, and something that delivers ROI as well. So for us here today, we want companies that have proven an ability to succeed, but are at a growth inflection point where we think they're going from 3 or 5 or 10 million of revenue to 40, 50, $100 million of revenue.
Right. What are some of the challenges you see that some of these companies are facing this day, and you're sort of standing back and going, I don't know if I'd go there?
I think what's challenging today is the mobile side is what's going to work, and it's still evolving, and it's so dynamic, and it's such a great medium for advertising because it's one-to-one in many cases, and that's targeted by itself and obviously measurable to a large degree, and therefore should prove out ROI. But in terms of what's working today, there aren't a lot of models that have really scaled in terms of what's working, and so right now it really is proving that the consumers are going to be there and that the models are going to work. So carriers are an impediment to some degree.
Right.
Models are an impediment. So right now it really is, it's the early stage of a dynamic growth opportunity. And so for us, we're trying to figure out who the winners are going to be in a very complex and confused marketplace.
Absolutely. One of the things that's sort of interesting about the role that advertising and marketing companies, media companies are playing on the mobile end of things is sort of the debates between off-deck and on-deck content and the amount of control a carrier has versus sort of the free-for-all experience that a company might want to look for. And certainly the ROI issues, customer service issues, a lot of these companies perhaps that were taking the off-deck approach, one of the challenges they were facing is they didn't have a proper sort of help support line, if you will. Are you sort of looking a little bit deeper to these various sort of factors at the sustainable business model?
We are. I mean, the whole on-deck, off-deck is clearly going to be complex, and particularly from a technology standpoint about who's interfacing and how are they interfacing.
Right.
Because from a monetization standpoint, you need to figure out a way to manage either with the carriers or around the carriers. What we've been focusing on, though, is less of the software or technology piece with the carriers and more about people who are building a methodology and a service that can succeed in any world. And so really leveraging what technology is out there and going to be the winners to find out the services and the folks who are delivering advertising on a targeted basis that are generating that advertising revenue or the lead gen revenue that's more consistent with what's happening online. So how you deal with the carriers is a tough nut to crack.
Right.
But where we're investing on the later stage side is more folks who are cracking that code and either figuring out a way to get around or a way to work with the carrier. So we're not taking that on-deck or off-deck risk. We're trying to find people who have revenue and are proving that their model works. So trying to mitigate some of those risks.
Right. What do you look for in terms of the management team, if you will? I mean, you know, this is a space that evolves very quickly. You can be in the space for 5 years and be considered a veteran. On the other hand, there are so many examples of companies with very young entrepreneurs, if you will, that are creating some amazing successes right away.
I think it's very hard to have a set template, but in a perfect world, you really love to have experience. And what we like, given the type of investments we make in service companies, we like to see people who know media and who have a background in media, and they could be complemented by young, dynamic entrepreneurs who have created great technology, but we like to have a media foundation so you can understand what the advertisers are looking for and what customers are looking for, and therefore what business model is going to succeed. Because creating a whole new business model is a very different risk than it is improving an existing business model, going from what historically was TV and branded advertising, to online, which is more ROI based, to mobile, which is more one-to-one measurable and potentially an even higher ROI than online.
I know that you're talking about that you're looking at companies that are somewhat at a later stage, if you will. Are you looking to be able to play, I guess, a role in terms of guidance and mentorship, even if they are sort of that much further along, if you will?
Absolutely. For us, we try and pick companies that do have some maturity and have proven some success, but once they get to that point, given our media experience, we feel that we can add a lot of value about where to go, whether it's relationships, introductions, and different strategies that are going to be successful. For instance, we have an investment in a company that was in the digital space focused on the automotive marketplace. Now, we knew a lot about the automotive marketplace through our traditional TV and radio, where historically automotive was advertised. As we saw those advertisers moving online, we tried to work with them to figure out where they're going online, and that led us to an investment opportunity.
Right.
And so with that, we were able to help that company go into many different areas above and beyond just what they were doing to broaden their revenue stream and broaden their strategy a bit.
Right. So does Alta Communications, is your own, I guess, sort of grouping of people composed of individuals with different experience, whether it's media experience or mobile experience or internet experience, that type of thing?
It really is more folks who have media experience and investment experience than it is people who are specifically on the mobile side. Our business has evolved, and because we're across all forms of media. We still invest in radio, we still invest in TV. We take the best of what we've learned and what we're seeing in the marketplace to help companies evolve their strategy.
Right.
But we're really internally much more of an investor group and a media group than we are technologists.
Right.
Or operators.
Just in closing here, Lane, you have a panel that's coming up later on this afternoon. Can you give us a quick overview of what you're going to be discussing?
We're going to be discussing how to crack the code on some of these issues. So there are a couple of early stage investors here and one strategic investor. So the early stage investors are focused on the technology and how to work with the carriers,
right.
Getting on deck, how to interface. The corporate is going to be more focused on what is really going to help drive some of the businesses within some of the portfolios of a company like IAC.
Right.
And we're focused on looking at the next step of that process about, with the technology investment and the early stage investors seeding these companies, where we can play with companies that can leverage that technology to deliver solutions that really are going to be successful
right.
in the media and mobile marketplace.
Fantastic. Lane, thank you so much for joining us today. We've been speaking with Lane Macdonald of Alta Communications. We're here at Mobile Internet World in Boston, and I'm Michelle Sklar with bnetTV.com.